Hey! In today's episode of the Wellcast, you're going to be a witness to a conversation between myself and my dear friend and colleague, Ricki Monique. Friend, that's a big word. And so I'm going to share with you what does friendship mean to me. Friendship to me is a willingness to tell a person when you think they're wrong and when you're willing to tell them that you disagree. If you're not willing, or I'm not willing to share those things, then to me the relationship is more, it's not a friendship really, it's more of it being an associate, right? It's not that deep. I'm not really trying to tell you I disagree or that I think you're wrong, because I'm not actually trying to go that deep with you for whatever reasons, there's really no judgment on that. But Ricki and I have such a relationship, a friendship, where we are willing to go that deep. And some of that happens in this Wellcast. So I just want to say, sit back, relax, and enjoy this conversation between friends and colleagues as I talk to Ricki Monique about what her experience was like watching me, as another Black woman, go through the creative process of bringing an idea to life in Centerplay.
As a grown woman, when you're in that conceptualizing phase, you look like a child. Right? You're like playing and you're dreaming and you look crazy because you're like this and this, and that, and there's this song I wrote, and like, let me sing it for you, 1, 2, 3. It was like, that was how you were like so excited.
Hey y'all, welcome to the Bohemian Way Wellcast. My name is Boheme. I'm the artistic and co-executive director of the Bohemian Way. And I'm joined here today by Ricki Monique.
Hi, everybody.
Ricki is a dear friend and colleague of mine, and today I'm interviewing her to talk to her about what it was like watching me go through the creative process, watching another Black woman go through the creative process in creating my first short film. Centerplay is the name of that film, and it was a stage play in 2018 that was canceled due to COVID, a premiere in 2020. So instead of waiting for it to go back to the stage, I turned it into a series of short films. And so that's what we're talking about today. All right. So Ricki, can you tell me, what was it like watching me go through the pre-production process? What did you see and experience?
I remember coming into this space actually, and you had these big old Post-it notes all over the wall with writing all over them, each of them separated by each character. And we talked for like 2 hours straight of you explaining to me like who each character was, like why, like what inspired you to build these characters. And you were still in the space of like deciding how you wanted it to translate on camera. So I think that was the first thing that I noticed, was just like how hard it is to translate theater to film, right? And like what goes into that, I guess, was something that I first noticed. I will say another thing that I kind of laughed at was just like, as a grown woman, when you're in that conceptualizing phase, you look like a child, right? You're like playing and you're dreaming and you look crazy because you're like this and this, and that, and there's this song I wrote, and like, let me sing it for you, 1, 2, 3. It was like, that was how you were like so excited, so like antsy and like nervous, and like nervous is something I felt off of you. Is just like, and I don't think nervous is necessarily the word I'm looking for, but just like in that space of like, oh shit, I'm sharing this idea that I have in my head that I haven't necessarily said out loud.
I'm like tearing up. This is so awesome.
Yeah, it was so cool to see, but
it's like my inner child. You were seeing that Janata was explaining,
yes.
Another colleague of ours, about like that part of you that like creativity is so at your fingertips. All the ideas are like right there and you don't really question them. You're just excited and sharing them. So it sounds like you got to meet my inner child a little bit.
I got to see that. And I got to get invested as well in those characters and like excited to see what was going to happen with those characters. And already excited to see once, you know, the films are out, how each character will get their space to explore, right? So I really enjoyed that. And like seeing that was really fucking cool to me. What else did I notice? As somebody who is also an artist who has, you know, done a little bit of film work, I felt excited, but a sense of like heart skipping a beat about what building a team for that would look like. Because when you do dream that far, sometimes people don't get it or see the vision and aren't necessarily willing to put their hard work into making it come to life. With film, it's not something that you can just do yourself. Right. You need a team. So seeing you move and tell the story, it made me excited, but it made me little, you know, we were talking about that light that young Black girls have of like dreaming and excitement. So I just noticed like had a bit of a fear for you of like what it would look like for you to share those ideas with people who aren't me. And like, would they receive them in the way that they deserve to be received? So it was cool to see that your team was built as well. So yeah, that's what I noticed, I feel like.
Yeah, it's cool to hear you share this with me because I don't remember. Because I've been so head down in the editing process that like I forgot about that feeling, and that it feels like it was so long ago. It was only a year ago. But I'm also inspired to like also take a brief moment of like, you know, I learned some of what I was doing also from having been a part of the process for Immortal, you know, your video beforehand. So I kind of learned a little bit from you in how to approach bringing people into a vision too. So like know that too, you know. But I can relate too to, you know, the scariness of sharing something with people that, yeah, I didn't know if they were going to get it. I mean, obviously that was a challenge across the whole process of like, but I'm even your observation too, that I don't know if we talked about that recently too, but through some other reflections with Mike, who edited the film, of like, I really had a heart. I think what made the process of editing this piece, or just the whole thing, what made it hard was the fact that it already existed as a theatrical piece. That's what made it challenging. It already existed in my mind.
So that makes me think about, I was just talking to Mike about this last week too, because he said like him and the band are going to be officially recording some of the tracks that they have that they perform, but they haven't recorded yet. And I have songs that I've done that way as well as like they existed as performances, pieces that I wanted to perform first. And then people are like, oh, I love that. You know, when is that going to be out and recorded? I would love to listen to that. And so it's like, okay, let me go in the studio and record it. And it never comes out the way that I want it to. It's something that is like, I don't know if it's like an exchange with the audience or if it's like the voice that part of your voice is your movement and who you are like in person or something. It's like hard to translate that in recording both film and like audio.
Yeah, that was tricky. And even hearing you say and observing that from the pre-production phase, yeah, it was something I had no realization of what kind of challenge that was going to be. Yeah. To take something that already existed. It wasn't even just in my mind. Like it fully existed already. And it had an imagery. It had a look. It had a feel. And it had a flow. And so taking that and trying to put it into a different medium, it was hard. All right, my next question. What did you observe about the way I communicated with the team in the pre-production process? Were you in a lot of those meetings?
I wasn't in any of those.
Oh, okay.
So I don't. Okay, describe the process of piecing together the team that helped bring this vision to life.
So the process was, some parts of that process were like slow and took time. Some parts of that process were quick. So Diego, who did a lot of creative direction for the piece, I knew through one of my mentors, Bibi Zahara Benet. Diego had done and still does a ton of work of creative direction work for Bibi. And so I had been knowing and observing that work over the years. And so I finally felt like I had a project big enough to warrant me asking Diego for support and help. So he and I started working on planning out how we would approach this in January of 2021. Mm-hmm. And then I had been on the hunt, really looking for Black women directors. And I had a list that I was compiling, and there were 2 in Minnesota. Everybody else was in Atlanta, New York, or LA, which was like, in terms of budget, like, I mean, like, some of the women are arguably very famous. So it was just like, how can I get them on to, like, I have no catalog of film work at all. So that kind of just, it was a challenge. And then there were some Black women that I reached out to in the Twin Cities that weren't available for whatever reason. So I was without a director and just being patient. And then I had the opportunity I directed a video for Mike. I got a chance to work with you. I pulled you onto the project. You were like, I need you to be a part of my project. I was like, okay. Like, I love your energy. I love your vibe. I'm excited and interested and very curious about whatever you're making. So tell me how I can be involved. And that was something that I like learned about you and really admire and appreciate about you, of like, whether you are totally clear on it or not, you really do know what you need, and you are insistent on engaging with the people who are the best suited for whatever that is, even if you don't know 100% what that thing is. Like, we had no idea ultimately what my role was going to be, but you knew that there was something to be engaged with, and you were invested in exploring and nurturing that. So that really inspired me, and of course was the main, like, that was like reason enough for me to want to be involved. I was like, all right, this young lady knows something. I'm down to figure out what it is that she knows. And so through that experience of working with you and your creative process, and seeing how you did, engage with community building around the work you were creating, really helped give me some insight on how to do it myself. So through working with you and seeing Charles and Justin work together and seeing their chemistry and their work style was like, beautiful. And I also, in that process, had such a great time working with Charles. Like, we worked really well side by side. So that was, it was through seeing the way you operated and the way you interacted with them that gave me the courage to present something to them that maybe we will, I feel like y'all are the right people to work with me and help me with this. And like, having the courage to just sit down with them and talk about it. And then who else did we, pull onto the team here? I don't even remember who recommended Serena. I don't even remember who recommended her, but Serena was the right person. But yeah, I think it was a lot of listening, doing everything I could to also like prioritize women in as many places and ways as I could. And if I couldn't prioritize a Black woman, then prioritizing a Black man or Black person who would help support the expression of a Black woman's story. Like, that was a part of the culture that I wanted to cultivate. But that's also something that I learned from you a bit about, like, being insistent on the culture. Like, if we can't control every element, then let's be intentional about the culture that we're facilitating. And making sure that the people that I'm able to pull onto this team are aligned with that intention, because like, it's film. Like, there ain't a crazy long line and list of Black women directors, cinematographers, editors. Like, there's not a bunch of us. So if we can't fill the whole team with everybody that we want, like, making sure people are aligned. I would say those are some of the main things that kept me focused in building and pulling the team together.
I love that. Yeah, pulling a team together is very hard, Because also sometimes there will be people that can do the job, but may not be best suited to be a part of that specific project. So like, you know, making those decisions and like you said, being insistent on the culture and the energy of the actual set being right is like, that's key.
Yeah.
I love that. What ways do you feel you kind of like nurtured the culture on set? Like what things did you make sure were done to either make your energy right or make people feel comfortable on set?
To be honest with you, I feel like I had so much on my plate that I was not as intentional about that as I would in the future really want to be.
Yeah.
Also, sidebar, just to be clear, Serena was our producer on this project. I just threw her name out without saying what you did. I was the choreographer. I wrote the scripts.
Co-director.
I co-directed.
And acted.
You know,
Yep.
it was a lot of hats to wear.
Yep.
All at one time. It was a lot of space to hold. Because I was holding space in the roles, but nobody was really holding me.
Yeah.
So like I had to hold me and I had to hold the roles.
Yeah.
So the capacity beyond that to really cultivate a culture in the space was like just one step too many for me to reach out for. So that's something that in the future I would, you know, prioritize a little bit better. Hey y'all, I just had to chime in because what I had said, that's not actually true. I did have support. I think I was just reliving and remembering these things for the first time, so it was a little hazy. And I just have to acknowledge I did have support. Loyola came through and was my producer for that entire week intensive, and so I did have support, and I was still overwhelmed. So just had to just add that in there.
What did Mike do?
Which Mike?
Mike Bishop.
Mike Bishop in that instance was a supportive role logistically a lot with like spaces, making sure that we were in the right spaces and helping with food and hospitality.
So by having...
Boom. Yes, you're right. We made sure we had hospitality and food.
That's one way
for everybody.
Because there's not a lot of people who prioritize that on set because it's already costs a lot to do that. So by asking Mike Bishop to help on set, that is one way. Just like you said, I knew what I needed by reaching out to Mike Bishop, making sure that he could help in that way. And by him being there, that was one way that you you made space for the culture to be right.
That's true. You're right.
By asking me to come, that is another way. Having
Ricki
those,
did keep me grounded. What am I saying? I don't remember. That's why we're having this conversation right now. Because like your memory gets really skewed when you get so far away from the process.
It does. It does. It really does.
Yes, Ricki was there ultimately to help keep me grounded and to hold me as a person.
And PA, right? Like assist with whatever needed to be done. But like, yeah, just you did have people on set that were supporting you, you know?
Okay, let me pause. Because I'm not really thinking day to day. Let me pause. I'm not actually thinking about the whole shoot. Because each day, I guess I'm just thinking about one particular day. This was a 4-day shoot. We shot 4 films in 4 days, which is wild. So let me pause before I actually answer the question and think about it.
And back-to-back days at that.
It was back-to-back, 4 days in a row.
Breaks in between those 4 days.
Ricki was there. Val was there. Shakita was there, my makeup artist. She stuck around extra time. I was held as a person in this process. Right. That is not true to say that I was not. That's not true.
You didn't say that you weren't held. I'm just helping you in regards to, you were saying you would want to do more in regards to, and we all could do better. You know what I'm saying? But you did this. I just wanted to call out what you did do. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, you're right.
Get yourself something.
I know. I'm so used to like.
It's hard.
Being extra hard on myself.
But
But you never let me.
In these settings, though, like, in these types, on the podcast, you got to flex a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
You're right about that. You
got to show a little muscle. But
it It was just a lot. It was a huge project and a huge undertaking. And people will be like, would you do it? Would you ever do it that way again? I might. I'm not, I feel like just because something was hard doesn't mean that you just don't do it again. I think what we all learned from doing it this way is that we can shoot 4 projects in a weekend if we need to. And that could be ultimately a process for me in the future, knowing that I have how much material, how does that change my focus for a whole year if I prioritize and can prepare a team for that level of intensity over that span? How can that focus our work a little bit better?
Do it different.
Than like dripping out videos or projects all throughout the whole year.
Right.
That is a reflection that I have.
And not doing an intensive right before the 4 days. That was what? That was a lesson.
That was a lesson for those who don't know, which is mostly nobody, because this was I did a beta test of an intensive dance training program.
It was awesome too.
Bohemian Way.
Yeah, it was dope.
But I did it like the week right before leading up to the video shoot.
The last day of the damn intensive was the motherfucking day before she shot Vichy and we went into production.
It was the first.
Oh, the day you came from the intensive to, and I asked her too. I said, V, when she told me she was gonna do this, I said, okay, are you sure that you'll be okay? And she's like, yeah, I'm gonna be fine. This is a part of the work. This is gonna prepare me. I said, okay. Shit, go crazy.
I said it just like that, didn't I?
Go crazy. You're like, this is going to prepare me for and I said, go crazy.
Let me tell you how I was wrong. Those of you who are overachievers, who like to do too much, I'm talking to you because I'm talking to me right now. The reason why I felt like it was going to prepare me was because I created the intensive training program from the actual physical schedule that I put myself on to prepare for the filming. And so part of the longer trajectory for Bohemian Way is to have intensive training programs as a part of our annual programming. Like quarterly, we'll have these opportunities for dance artists and musicians to be able to do a focus intensive program with rigor to, provide space for care and focus. Mm-hmm. And so I could handle it. Mm-hmm. It isn't even that I felt like I could handle it. I decided I was going to handle it.
Period.
But what did I learn?
Just because you can don't mean you should.
Yeah, but I couldn't. Because here's what happened. The week was so intense and rigorous because not only was I putting my body through this particular schedule that I built for myself with CrossFit, Pilates, yoga, journaling, and restful yoga, I was producing an intensive program, and producing something as a whole other level of responsibility and not just responsibility, but energy to doing anything. So it was just too much. And so by the time we got to Friday, CrossFit, dancing in heels, doing all this stuff,
producing a whole program.
This whole program.
There was a dancer that flew in from New York who was a part of this program that she taught and produced. You taught a lot of the classes too.
I did. I taught most of the classes.
There was like 6 or 7 other dancers, and it was a Monday through Friday.
Yep.
Schedule.
And then we started shooting on Friday night. And so what happened was my mind and my spirit and my heart were driving, full of energy and ready to do it. And then my little body, she said, no, ma'am. Like, I had done all this training to prepare myself to do a certain signature thing in heels that I'm not going to say what it is because ultimately my body petered out and I couldn't physically do it. Like
on camera.
On camera.
Yeah.
Like my willpower, my heart was so ready and focused and prepared, and my body was like, no. Like, you ran me into the ground all week and now you're asking me to do more? No, I don't even have it. Like, my ankles swell up so bad. It was so bad. But yeah, that was, definitely a lesson in, it doesn't mean that in the future it won't serve me or make sense, but if it's going to happen again, I need a producer for that so that I can actually just be on my schedule. I need other teachers teaching majority of the classes so that I'm just teaching one extra class. You know, like it can't, if it's going to happen in the future, it can't happen like that.
And now you know.
And now I know because, you know, I'm hard-headed and I got to learn firsthand.
Don't listen. Niggas don't listen.
My goodness.
But now, now you know. And it sounds good, right? I just thought about like the boxes of each character, right? And like the jewelry and the, like for my music video, like I literally took.
Wait, the boxes. I'm sorry. Wait, rewind.
Each character for your clothes, like your outfit. Remember you had the boxes for them each, like with their costume in it, which was very smart. But with that, like, it just makes me think of the, like, you didn't have a costume designer, or like you did that, like you did most of your costume design for each character, right? And like, that's a lot. That's a lot of stuff to be worried about on top of running back from something that you just produced. And you're coming down off of the high of you just finished running your beta test for a program that you're building, right? Of like, for my music video, I took the day before the shoot off of work. And the first day of the shoot was a Friday off of work.
And I'll be telling her to do that. And look at me.
Period. And I knew I had to do it, right? And like, and we had that night shoot. So, you know, that also played into it, right? But like, just like remembering that you even told me, like, she literally sat me down like, 3 weeks ago, and you were like, you are not paying attention to what type of energy it takes to prepare for and come down off of certain projects. What energy does it take for you to prepare for a big show? What energy does it take for you to calm down or like relax and rest after? To prepare for a film, to prepare for a photo shoot, to prepare to be on stage and, you know, talking and hosting. Those are, like you said to me, those are all different energies. That's been sitting with me. But like, as multimodal artists, we don't always give ourselves that space because, like, I gotta go to the next thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough habit to break. Yeah, I think that's also something like that I'm still sitting with and trying to reconcile. Is that, I mean, like, these are years of habits. I mean, not 20 and 30 and 40 years of habits, but it's still years of habits of me doing things in a certain way, operating at a certain energy output and expression and capacity for whatever reasons. It's just going to take time for me to reallocate my energy a little bit better. But yeah, that was crazy that I did it that way and that I was so dedicated to it. But it makes sense because that's what I'll be doing that.
Yeah.
So I don't think anybody was surprised.
It sounded good, right? It's like intensive preparing for the shoot, like for this video shoot. Like, it sounds like, yes, period. Do your yoga,
It was the same schedule I had been working though since February. It wasn't the schedule. I mean, like, again, with support, with an actual production team to produce the beta test, or it won't be a beta test next time. You know, like, it'll never happen that way again. But I also will not put myself under that particular kind of pressure again.
Heard you.
Like, that's not going to happen again.
Yeah.
If for some reason, which that's also my point, like, I'm not wearing all those hats again anymore. Like, that's also been a lesson for me of like, it doesn't make sense for me to wear 50 hats. It doesn't make sense. It makes more sense for me to take more time to try to get the support that I need. But this is what was tricky about planning to shoot Center Play though, right? If I had waited, like, there's a fine line of like where you kind of have to trust time. I had the funding to create Center Play. I wanted to commit to some sort of timeline to getting it done, right? I could have like waited until I found the right director, but to me, it made more sense to reprioritize and at least focus on the culture and focus on bringing in Black women and Black people in the spaces that honored the culture that I wanted to create in order to get it made. And then I could go to certain Black women directors who are you know, in different places and say, hey, here's the first version of what I made.
Yep.
You know, I actually want to turn this into a feature length. I actually want to turn this into, you know, a small series or whatever have you. But to have those materials to take it on, I think that's another thing that in terms of the creative process and things we talk about a lot too is like sometimes like every project you work on is going to be the biggest, best project you've ever worked on.
Right.
You know, sometimes you know, our ideas get so big in our minds that we feel like we need the best of the best of the best of the best of the best right now, you know? And I'm just always reminding myself, like, this is just another creation in a lineage, in a line of many creations I'm going to create. This is going to open up another door for another creation for me. Sometimes, you know, I feel like it takes, you got to cut your losses sometimes on like which projects you want to covet and which ones you want to use as a catalyst for other projects.
Right.
What did you observe about the way Charles and I co-directed on set?
So one thing I liked, I said about you two before when we worked on my project was that Charles is the technical guy. He is the like, move the camera over like 5 milliinches.
This is Charles Fatumbi we're talking about, by the way.
Yes.
Capsule Creative.
Period. He's always like very technical in regards to the look of it. And you are very, look and feel. You are very technical about translation and feel of the person. Like as a performer, you understand what it feels like to be on camera, and you understand when it looks like somebody on camera is uncomfortable, or when it looks like what they're trying to do or say is not really happening. And so I feel like you two work very well together in that way. Mm-hmm. I will say on your set, something I noticed was because you weren't able to be behind the camera and see how you looked because we were on time crunch, right? I saw there being more of a lean in regards to the technical look, and that I felt like there was a little bit missing of the balance that you give and bring in regards to feel of the person on camera, right? And translation, right? Because also acknowledging that the story that is being told, the stories that are being told are stories of Black women, right? And like, I feel like it's harder for people who are not Black women to really understand like what specifically is being done or said. I also felt like in pre-production, I don't know how much was understood in regards to like what direction you wanted to go with like, with your characters, with some of your characters. I feel like Vega was very straightforward. I feel like Pamela was very straightforward. While Vichy and Graciela were very abstract topics that if you're not a Black woman, you don't necessarily understand what is being portrayed or expressed, right? And like also in regards to Graciela, like she's exploring rage, but everybody, like all Black women get like the rage is not like, it's like, it's a rage that you carry from every little thing, right? And like, what is it like to hold it and not be able to ever express it? And also understanding that it's kind of it's a self-sabotage rage, or like a gentle rage, that it's like nobody outside of us really gets burned from that rage 9 times out of 10, right? Like it's typically something that we take out on ourselves, or even like Graciela is expressing her rage in isolation at home. But you wanted to show that the way it looks, like the way it would look if someone were to express all of that rage in their body. I think that's something that's very hard to translate on camera. And I feel like, I don't know that there was much of an understanding there. I didn't get to be on set that day to see how that went, but
but that's like we had conversation about that and pre and post of just, you know, this conversation about rage for Black women is one I've been having with my friends, and we've continued to talk about the challenges in team building, and we have to navigate. We don't have to do anything, but I would just say that it's a consideration, you know, of like anger. Mm-hmm. Being an angry Black woman mm-hmm. is something that can come at you fast, like as a descriptor, as an attitude from other people. So mm-hmm. we've had to talk about how we navigate that in creative spaces, in spaces where where our vision is being expressed, you know. Like that's been a tricky thing. I mean, like there were moments in this process where I was trying to express rage as a Black woman, express anger, but somehow in the process became the angry Black woman to somebody on set. Like, wait, what? This is very meta. Like, how is this the thing? This shouldn't be the thing. So I think just as a further conversation, you know, it's tricky to navigate it. It's tricky to explain it to other people. I mean, like this was the challenge too of like turning something that was created for the theater into something for the film, like, and being a first-time filmmaker. Like, I don't know that I did the best job of explaining all of what you're talking about. There's a level of like people not just unfortunately not being able to like 1-to-1 ratio understand what I'm saying just because they have a different experience, but also as a first-time filmmaker, I'm not sure that I explained it clearly. Period. You know, either. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure because it was in my head twice, right? Like, I'm telling you what it is, but I also live it. I feel it. I created it, so I know it from a certain perspective. So I might think I'm saying it really clear. And also, the other thing that I can say and just acknowledge too, that in this work, you know, there was a level of mystery that we operated under, that I led from, where I told my teammates, like, you know, all I need you to focus on is, like, I'm going to give you a coloring sheet with the lines on it. You have to fill in the colors. I'm going to give you, and this is language that I have now that I didn't have at the time, mm-hmm. you know, that, you know, I'm going to give you a whole bunch of colors, you know, use these 5 colors. Here's your coloring sheet. But like how you color it is ultimately up to you. And so, I mean, I think at certain points I gained this language, at certain points I didn't. Yeah. Some people love working that way. Some people do not like working that way at all. Yeah. Don't give me no colors. Just give me a complete color sheet that I can copy, you know?
Yeah, I also question if it's defining what your role is too, like more clear, because I think too it comes to like, I'm going to do my job and I just need you to do yours. If that makes sense. Like, and this is exactly the support that I need from you in that position or in that role, right? Like,
I did that. Yeah. But I think that in me doing that, for some team members, what I gave them, what I told them my role was and what I was going to do and what they wanted more than what I was willing to give them, right? For example, and Charles and I will talk about this, Charles wanted me to give him a video of the choreography I was going to do in the film. But I knew that I was going to be, some of it, not all of it, because I did give him some videos, but I knew some of it was going to be improvised based on the space we were in. So I told him, I know that we're going to be in a space that looks like this. I'm going to move down this hall and I'm going to move into this space. I'm going to go up here. You know, I gave him a trajectory of where I was going to go. But he was like, well, what are you going to be doing? Like, I want to see the movement. And I was like, I can't tell you what that's, I mean, I could give you something now, but we're going to get in the space. And if there's something better that needs to happen in the space, I'm going to do that, which is a very theatrical way of being. That's how dance works. We choreograph dances all the time, but then we get into a space. And whereas we thought we were going to have an entire stage, they're like, this is all we got is this little piece of rug. Well, that whole run across the stage I was supposed to do can't happen. So now it has to become something else that still kind of gets the idea across. So, you know, there's so many aspects of my creativity that I'm realizing along the way allow me to create the way that I do, that people just, that's a norm for me as a dancer, but, you know, and it doesn't mean that I can't utilize that in this space, but
exactly.
No, it's now that I know that that's where that level of malleability comes from, I can share that with people.
Yep.
But even if I share with people what it is and how it's happening, they may freaking hate that.
Yeah.
They may be like, I don't like working like this.
Yeah.
I need to find, like center play what I explain to people is that it literally weaves. It weaves we go from a monologue into movement, back into a straight monologue, into a song. Like that's how it happened as a live theatrical experience. And so to tell people that it's going to live like that through the cinematic is like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And there was no, I'm not going to say it doesn't exist, but I don't have a precedent for what that means until now. Now I can show people, this is what I mean when I and I talked about this with Mike, is that ultimately the edit is choreography. You're not just editing it. You're choreographing the cinematography.
Right.
You're choreographing it to make the actual form say something on top of the subject matter, on top of the dancing. The actual way it's edited is saying something too. But that I didn't have a precedent for that. Yeah. But so it was a challenge getting through this first time. But
I found too that a lot of people use like old people who used to dance and now do film work as DPs, or people who still dance that also do film work as DPs for work that's more like dance centered, because there's that understanding too of movement. So that's also, that just came to my head. That's also very interesting.
What did you notice about the way I handled myself on set?
It seemed like you took pretty good care of yourself on set in regards to like knowing energetically what you needed. So like you would stretch and do some yoga if you needed to. You would get yourself some coffee or ask for someone to bring you some coffee. And if you needed to prepare, you would like go somewhere where you could be kind of by yourself, your breathing exercises that you would do and stuff like that. I really love that.
Was there anything that you didn't love about what you saw me doing on set? And you'd be like, oh my God, we don't do that.
No. I'm trying to think more about the way that you directed or like the way that you like played the roles that you did for yourself and for just the set. But
that was so tricky.
I can't remember honestly like any of that. I think like something that I'm thinking about too is like what you always told me about trusting your team. Like you had to do that.
Yes, I did.
And like I feel like it's different because this is like you wrote this, right? Like, me and Charles collaborated in regards to the story of Immortal, but that was mostly Charles's vision for the video, right? Versus this is like mostly your vision. So for you to trust, the people behind the camera to get the shots that you wanted, that was something that I really admired. Was that like you really did what the advice you gave me, you took yourself. Like you really trusted your team. So at least the days that I was there. So that was really cool to see. That's really all that I can really think of, though. I feel like
she was there every day but one.
Yeah, there was and I was there. I wasn't there for the whole day of Vega either. I was there for like the beginning, and I had to dip out. I don't remember why. I had to do something, but
you had something to do. What was a highlight of working on this project?
A highlight for me for working on the project, I think, was one, I just love being on set. Like I love being on film sets with people of color, like Black people. It just feels so good. So that was one of my highlights, was just like being with you and being with Diego and like Charles and Justin, Awa and Serena, and like seeing how fucking pretty the shots looked. Like, ooh, it turned out so beautifully. Like the shots were crazy good. I really enjoyed like just the teamwork side of it as well, and like just that like everybody was there to get it done, but it still felt fun.
Yeah.
It never felt like oh my God, like, hurry up, like, let's get this done, like, I'm ready to go home. Like, I don't think I ever heard anybody say they were ready to go home, and then after we were done shooting, it's like, oh, let's all go get some food. Like, sets don't work like that in corporate or like in these white spaces. Like, that energy on the set was so beautiful. So I really, really enjoyed that. I enjoyed meeting Diego. I'm in love with him.
Yes.
Leo, man.
Diego is the best.
Yeah, he is.
We love you, Diego.
We love you, Diego. But yeah, I had a really good time on set.
Me too. I mean, like, for the, like, we took on such a huge project together, you know, like, to walk through that process with everybody. It was surreal. It was unreal. It's like, yeah, we got into it. We were like, what are we doing?
We're here, though.
What are we doing? We're shooting four short films in 4 days.
Yeah.
We're doing this, you know, like, that was, I think it's a memory that we'll all have forever, that we shared together, that we were a part of something so ambitious, as, you know, again, like, because none of us, this is a tip that I will share with artists in terms of, like, building a team. One of the ways that I approached Charles to take on this project was by looking at his catalog and observing what was there and what was not there. And what I noticed about his catalog was he had a lot of music videos and he had some documentary work, but I didn't see any narrative work. And I didn't see anything as strange as what I knew Centerplay was going to be. And so that is where I started the conversation. It's like, I noticed what you don't have in your catalog and portfolio. Well, that's not where I started. I started by asking what he was interested in at all in creating, you know, first and foremost. Because if I find out that he, you know, wanted to do a bunch of documentary work, then it would be like, well, this probably isn't the right director for this.
Right.
But he said that he was interested in creating more narrative work and short films. And I was like, okay, cool. This could be the right person. But ultimately, by looking at his actual portfolio, that gave me some context of, like, where my work could fit into it. So, you know, again, like, I feel like we all kind of, like, took on something, you know, ambitious that we didn't know what would come out of it, but I think we made something fun. So
yeah. I actually want to come back to the question you asked about what surprised me. I do have something that surprised me, and I don't know that surprise is the right word for this, but, like, I had never seen you perform before. So to see you turn on these characters, that was really fucking cool to me. Like, it's like, damn, like, let me work on my performance. Like, it was, like, really cool to see, like, you know, Pamela, like, not you acting like a old woman, you know, or, like, I shouldn't say old, but, like, a middle-aged Black woman, you know, and, like, Vega, like, you just really were good at turning on those people and, like, really channeling the characters that you played, which isn't it's not a surprise because you are in theater, like, you're an actress, you know. But to see it in person and to see every take, you know, because it's one thing to see in theater, like, you just get to see the show once. But to see every take of you, like, embodying that character in different ways, right? And, like, yeah, that was so cool to see. I really enjoyed that. So, yeah, that was something that surprised me. Not necessarily, but...
Yeah, no, I think I also want to share this about, like, finding your people, finding good, you know, collaborators. Like, one thing that I appreciate about Ricki and I love so much is that, you know, we clicked energetically without having seen each other on stage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we just trusted that it felt right to be in connection with each other ultimately.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's something that is really special that, like, I want to offer to people, like, to just know that sometimes you meet people who are on the same wavelength, and that's, you know, we got to know each other so much before ever seeing each other on stage.
Yeah.
You know, like, I just want to encourage people that when things feel right, when people feel right to you,
lean into
it.
Yeah.
And don't doubt what there's been no reason to doubt.
Yeah.
Like, just, you know what I mean? Like, just enjoy the friendship and the collaborative energy. So
yeah. And it's hard to work with somebody who you're friends with. But I think because our relationship started off as work, But the type of work that we do is personal. It was able to like transition into friendship, but there's still that level of like accountability and like and work that is like our base and foundation that I really appreciate and value. It's just like there's always nuggets. Every time I talk to you, I leave with something that I can think about, and that transforms either the way that I look at my art or the way that I carry myself. And I really appreciate that.
Same. Same. All right. Well, on that note, thank you so much for hanging out. Thank you so much for observing my process. Thank you for being willing to sit down and reflect with me and remind me of things that I forgot and, hold that mirror to me, and thank you all for witnessing and being with us. And we'll see you next time. Peace.